Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take your source material and turn it into actionable, compelling knowledge. Today, we are strapping in for a detailed look at a creative force who, for, 2 decades now, has simultaneously delighted and maybe repulsed us. With his unique brand of the deeply flawed, but deeply magnetic anti-hero, we are talking about Daniel Richard McBride. So our mission today, looking at the material you shared, is really to move well beyond those iconic loudmouth characters we know, the Kenny Powers, the Jesse Gemstones, and explore his true power, which seems to be his expensive and acclaimed work as a screenwriter, director, producer, and just a true genre-hopping collaborator. His identity, well, the sources define it by a unique acting and writing style, and his reach is pretty clear from the series' accolades. We're talking nominations for a Primetime Emmy Award, 4 Satellite Awards. It's significant. He's been active since, 2003, constantly cycling through these 4 major roles: actor, comedian, writer, and producer. And the central mystery here, I think, is how did this guy, whose career really launched from pretty lo-fi independent film, how did he successfully build this self-sustaining creative fortress, this ecosystem? Right. That made him one of HBO's most reliable hit makers and, maybe surprisingly, a major architect of modern horror franchises.
That idea, that creative ecosystem, I think that's the single most important takeaway from this deep dive.
Yeah.
It really is. Because unlike a lot of Hollywood stars who are maybe defined by their agents or the franchises they happen to join, McBride's whole trajectory seems defined by creative loyalty.
Loyalty.
Yeah. We're not just talking about Danny McBride, the solo star. We're really talking about a kind of unified production entity. And the significance of his long-term collaborations, particularly with director David Gordon Green and writer-director Jody Hill, you just can't overstate it. They are the constant gravity, sort of, in his creative universe.
Okay.
He made his official film debut back in 2003, a supporting role in Green's All the Real Girls. That connection right there, it immediately put him on a certain path.
Yeah, and while that indie debut was kind of quiet, critically liked but quiet, the jump to mainstream exposure was, pretty quick and effective, wasn't it? We all remember those quintessential mid-2000s comedies that really launched him into public awareness. Hot Rod in 2007, and then that unforgettable double whammy in 2008 with Pineapple Express and Tropic Thunder.
Right. Huge year.
Those roles really cemented his status as this hilarious, often volatile supporting actor. But like you said, the groundwork for his writing and producing, that was laid even earlier.
Yeah.
We really need to go back to the beginning to understand how this whole collaborative structure got built.
Okay, let's unpack this foundation then, because the source material gives us some genuinely crucial insights into where that unique, often caustic style comes from. Hashtag 1.1, early life and influences.
Right. It all starts late 70s.
Yeah.
Daniel Richard McBride, born December 29, 1976, in Statesboro, Georgia, but mostly raised in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. He graduated from Cortland High School there.
Yeah.
And when you look at his ancestry, it's already kind of a complex cultural mix, which, maybe fuels his writing. The sources mention he's got Irish, Scottish, English, and Jewish ancestry.
Interesting mix. Yeah, and crucially, some of his Catholic ancestors from Ulster, they immigrated to Virginia way back in the 1870s. So this whole blend suggests maybe a complexity and depth far beyond the often sort of two-dimensional loudmouths he first became known for playing.
And this complexity, it seems to extend right into his religious upbringing, which feels like maybe the most significant piece of, analytical data here, especially considering the themes in his later work, thinking the Righteous Gemstones.
Definitely.
He was raised Baptist, and he stated it pretty clearly. Church was very much part of my life when I was a kid. My parents were really involved and went all the time.
And what's fascinating there is how his personal history directly links organized religion with performance and storytelling.
Yeah.
McBride actually credited his mother, Kathy Rudy, with sparking his interest in storytelling.
Okay.
But this wasn't just like reading bedtime stories. His mother performed sermons in church using puppets.
Wait, what? Puppets? For sermons?
Yeah. Puppets. Think about that combination for a second. This sort of rigid moral structure overlaid with a theatrical, kind of absurd image of puppets being used to convey these massive, weighty themes of sin and redemption.
That is, wow. That is a perfect origin story for a character like Jesse Gemstone, isn't it?
It really is.
If you're raised seeing faith communicated through these really theatrical means, a highly stylized performance designed to move a big audience, it makes total sense that your adult work would, satirize that spectacle, but maybe still understand the deep human need behind it all.
Exactly. He learned the rhythm of the sermon, the power of the stage from his own family.
Oh.
And the sources also note his mother and stepfather work as civilian support at Marine Corps Base Quantico. So you got this environment characterized by performance, storytelling, but also service structure.
Right.
It's very American kind of tapestry, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably provided him with all the raw material he needed to start writing. Hashtag, tag, tag 1.2, the North Carolina School of the Arts, and the Three Flavas.
So, armed with this really unique background, he makes the crucial decision, goes to the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, UNCSA, gets his BFA there. And this wasn't just college, was it? This was like the crucible where his whole collaborative future got forged.
It absolutely was. That was the nexus point.
Yeah.
This is where he connects with director Jody Hill, David Gordon Green, Chris Bacall, the people who would really form the structural foundation of his career.
Right.
And specifically, he was involved with this group known as the Three Flavas at UNCSA.
Three Flavas. Okay, that name definitely sounds distinctly late 90s. But was it like a formal production company or more just a vibe, a shared aesthetic?
It seems like it was initially pretty informal, but incredibly focused.
Yeah.
A creative partnership within the film program there. It was about this commitment to a shared kind of lo-fi aesthetic, a particular taste or flavor, of filmmaking that prioritized character and this raw energy over big budgets. And what that meant was, right out of the gate, they had a shared language, a collective vision, which let them kind of bypass the traditional Hollywood gatekeepers later on.
Makes sense.
They learned to make films their own way, on their own terms, together. And actually, his technical development in this environment, it precedes his acting debut by several years. The sources reveal that before he was ever even on camera in a feature film, he served as a second unit director for David Gordon Green's debut film, George Washington. That came out in 2000.
Wow. Okay, that detail's crucial. Second unit director. I mean, that's handling everything that isn't the main principal photography work.
Yeah.
Action sequences, establishing shots, detail work.
Exactly.
It means he was getting hands-on, high-level technical experience in filmmaking structure and logistics years before anyone knew who Kenny Powers was. He wasn't just some funny guy who stumbled into acting.
No, not at all.
He was a filmmaker who chose acting as, like, one of his tools.
And that early connection to David Gordon Green that led directly to his acting debut, supporting role Bust Ass in Green's 2003 romantic drama, All the Real Girls.
Yeah, I remember that. Very quiet, critically acclaimed indie film. Kind of a strange place to find the seed of, say, Tropic Thunder.
It is, isn't it? And it's a brilliant contrast, actually, highlights his range early on.
Yeah.
But the real crystallization, I think, of his writing and acting style came with his first starring vehicle, The Foot Fist Way. That came out in 2006.
Okay, The Foot Fist Way.
Yeah, this was a low-budget, totally character-driven comedy. McBride starred as Fred Simmons, this completely delusional martial arts instructor. And he co-wrote the script with Jody Hill and Ben Best.
This is where that anti-hero template is really born, isn't it? Fred Simmons is basically the blueprint.
Totally.
He's narcissistic, toxic, delusional, but somehow you almost feel for him. Compellingly tragic.
Precisely. The Foot Fist Way showed the world that his signature character isn't just about being funny. It's about exploring that massive gap between a character's internal self-image and their, well, pretty pathetic external reality.
Right.
It's comedy, but it's rooted in tragedy.
Yeah.
And because they made it for basically no money, it became this huge cult phenomenon. Got championed by people like Seth Rogen and Will Ferrell.
That cult status is key. I remember the source notes, a specific indicator of that. The character Fred Simmons later appeared in character on Late Night with Conan O'Brien in 2008.
Right. And that appearance showed that the character was so specific, so absurdly realized, that he'd kind of transcended the film itself. He became this recognizable cultural archetype almost.
Yeah.
It proved that a low-budget, character-driven story built on those early creative partnerships from UNCSA could actually capture the cultural imagination.
Yeah.
It was basically proof of concept for the next big stage, HBO.
Okay, so The Foot Fist Way was the springboard, definitely. But the HBO trilogy, that's where Danny McBride truly solidified his unique brand of dark comedy and, maybe more importantly, became a showrunner, moved into that world of major prestige television.
Yeah, this is undoubtedly his most famous creation, right? The absolute pinnacle of the delusional anti-hero. Eastbound and Down, co-created with Jody Hill and Ben Best again, centered on Kenny Powers.
Yeah.
This completely washed up former Major League Baseball pitcher, serious anger management issues, forced to return to his hometown to teach gym class.
The premise alone is genius. It imposes the ultimate forced humility on a character who genuinely believes he's still a god.
Exactly.
That tension just drives the entire series. And it had immediate legitimacy, too, partly because it was produced by Will Ferrell and Adam McKay's company, Gary Sanchez Productions.
Right, that helped.
The pilot premiered February 2009, had Will Ferrell and Craig Robinson in it, signaling this was a major HBO venture right off the bat.
And the series just resonated powerfully. It got renewed for a second season almost immediately, like April 2009. Ran through 4 pretty distinct seasons, concluding November 2013, 29 episodes total.
Right.
The show really demonstrated their ability to sustain this long narrative arc built entirely around a deeply, deeply unlikable protagonist.
And the performance of Kenny Powers was so potent, it created one of the truly great surreal anecdotes in the source material. It actually broke the fourth wall, kind of crossed into the real world.
That's right. Get this. March 2009, Danny McBride. Just because of his performance's powers, he received an actual offer to play semi-professional baseball.
No!
Yes, for the Pensacola Pelicans in the American Association of Independent Professional Baseball.
Wait. A professional baseball team thought that the fictional, foul-mouthed, hedonistic, completely washed-up pitcher from an HBO show was actually capable of contributing to their roster.
Apparently so, or at least saw the PR value.
That is just a hilarious level of performance commitment for McBride.
It absolutely speaks to the overwhelming reality of the performance, doesn't it? The character felt so real, so authentically washed up and desperate, that a real organization saw, maybe the promotional opportunity, but also the sheer believability.
Wow.
That's the measure of a truly iconic and culturally pervasive character. And he got recognized for it, too. 2 Satellite Award nominations for Best Actor in a Television Series, Musical Comedy, 2009 and 2010. The industry definitely felt the impact.
Okay, so following the epic run of Powers, he and Jody Hill pretty quickly moved into Vice Principals. That was 2016, 2017. Another dark comedy, but this one felt, much more contained, focused on the truly cutthroat world of educational administration, dealing with that kind of existential misery of being second in command.
Yeah, and the most notable structural difference here was that Vice Principals was designed from the start as a closed-ended 18-episode limited series.
Right, they knew the ending.
Exactly. They committed upfront to telling a full, structured story, rather than just letting it run indefinitely. And that control, that's pretty indicative of the creative freedom HBO grants them, right?
Must be.
And this series really expanded McBride's roles. He didn't just star as Neil Gamby. The sources show he served as director for 2 episodes, plus writer, creator, and executive producer across all 18 episodes.
Okay, so fully integrated.
Fully. By this point, he's completely integrated into the technical leadership of the show, which allows him to direct and kind of mold his own performance on a really fundamental level.
The character of Neil Gamby, he still has that intense narcissism we saw in Powers, definitely. But there's a bitterness to him, maybe even darker than Powers' more flamboyant self-destruction.
I think so, yeah.
And the series was a success, critically anyway. Won the SXSW Film Festival Episodic Award in 2016. It basically proved that the collaborative engine they built back at UNCSA could consistently deliver high-quality, boundary-pushing comedy that also won critical acclaim.
And that consistency led directly to their latest, and you could argue most ambitious, series, The Righteous Gemstones. Premiered 2019, currently slated to run through 2025. And this show feels like the ultimate payoff of that whole puppet sermon insight we talked about earlier.
Oh, totally. The premise is just tailor-made for his voice, isn't it? This massive, world-famous televangelist family dealing with that often contradictory combo of deviancy, greed, and charitable work.
Yeah.
It takes the absurdity of performance that's kind of inherent in organized religion and just applies their anti-hero lens straight onto it.
And it's not just a TV show, is it? It feels bigger.
Yeah.
Like a family saga, almost a modern epic. McBride is truly leading the charge here. Creator, executive producer, writer, director for 4 episodes, and star, obviously, as Jesse Gemstone.
Right.
And the sheer scope, 36 episodes produced as of 2025. That just demonstrates their sustained organizational capacity under that Rough House Pictures banner we mentioned.
Yeah, and the supporting cast is just phenomenal. You've got John Goodman bringing all that gravitas as the patriarch, Eli, Adam Devine as the hapless Kelvin, and Edie Patterson, just brilliant, terrifying as Judy Gemstone.
Oh, she's incredible.
The chemistry of this ensemble really elevates the work, I think, beyond even their previous 2 HBO ventures.
I'd agree. It certainly has. And this series continued his impressive award recognition streak, too. Earned him another Satellite Award nomination for Best Actor in 2019, And then in 2022, multiple Hollywood Critics Association nominations, specifically recognizing him for Best Writing and Best Directing in a comedy series.
Okay, so that's the industry saying he's not just the performer. He's an essential creative leader, a structural pillar in the whole comedy landscape now.
Exactly. But as commanding as his collaborative TV career is, we definitely need to spend some time dissecting his filmography. Because it's surprising, really, just the sheer breadth of genres he's successfully managed to inhabit. Hashtag tech, hashtag 3.1 versatility in film roles.
Yeah, initially his early and mid-career film stuff kind of kept him in that comfortable comedy zone, right? He wrote and executive produced that 2011 fantasy comedy Your Highness.
Right. Which was something.
Yeah. And of course, he was a key figure in those big studio comedies like Land of the Lost in 2009, 30 Minutes or Less in 2011.
And we absolutely have to talk about This Is the End from 2013.
Yeah.
That was a major comedic high point. He played this exaggerated, completely unhinged, and frankly horrifying version of himself in a post-apocalyptic scenario.
Oh man, that role, pure chaotic commitment.
Totally. And it earned him an MTV Movie Award nomination for Best WTF Moment, shared with Channing Tatum, no less.
That's quite an honor in the world of cinematic absurdity.
It really is. But the real revelation, I think, the true measure of his range, comes when he makes that pivot to serious dramatic acting. This feels like a critical point.
Right.
Was the audience willing to accept the guy who played Kenny Powers as a serious dramatic lead?
Yeah, good question.
And surprisingly, yeah, they were. But he chose the roles pretty carefully, it seems, to prove his depth. We see him first in the ensemble cast of Jason Reitman's acclaimed drama Up in the Air back in 2009. The cast got a WDCFCA nomination for that.
Okay.
But his real commitment came when he plunged into these heavy, pretty highbrow literary adaptations.
Right, the Faulkner stuff.
Exactly. Consider the magnitude of the material here. 2013, he plays Vernon Tull in James Franco's adaptation of William Faulkner's modernist classic, As I Lay Dying.
Heavy.
Very. And the following year, 2014, he plays the police sheriff in The Sound and the Fury, another Faulkner adaptation by Franco. These are profound dramatic departures from, Fred Simmons.
That choice feels really deliberate, doesn't it? Faulkner is arguably the pinnacle of American dramatic literature. How did his specific brand of intensity, that energy we usually see used for narcissistic comedy, how did that translate into the dramatic weight needed for those roles?
I think it worked because the core of his anti-hero persona isn't just punchlines, right? It's intensity and a kind of moral brokenness. So in roles like Vernon Tull, that intensity translates directly into this palpable dramatic tension, this quiet desperation. He wasn't trying to be, conventionally dramatic. He leveraged that manic, aggressive energy that defines his comedic characters, but focused it inward into silent disapproval or this intense emotional weight.
Interesting.
It proved he could anchor a scene purely with presence, even when he wasn't shouting or stealing the spotlight. It really expanded his reputation from just a comedic actor to an actor who could command pretty much any genre. Hashtag tag 3.2, the unexpected turn into sci-fi horror.
Which brings us to maybe his most surprising genre shift. The ultimate departure from the high school gym teacher or the washed-up pitcher. Science fiction horror.
Yeah.
2017, he shows up in Ridley Scott's Alien Covenant.
Yeah, that was a genuine shock for a lot of fans, I think. And he wasn't brought in for some comedic cameo either. He played Tennessee, the pilot of the actual Covenant mission. He had to convincingly portray competence, heroism, and horror, three things Kenny Powers rarely demonstrated.
Right. And the source material highlights how personally important this role was. He was quoted saying he was surprised and glad for the opportunity because he'd been a longtime fan of the Alien franchise.
And that fan connection is actually pretty vital, I think, to understanding his performance. When a filmmaker or actor who typically deals in comedy steps into a sacred franchise like Alien, there's always that fear they'll, wink at the camera or inject inappropriate humor.
Yeah, break the tone.
Exactly. But because McBride was a genuine longtime fan, his commitment was totally to the tone and the terror. He appeared genuinely frightened, but also professional. He served the seriousness of the sci-fi horror genre. And furthermore, fans of the franchise might remember his appearance in that short prequel film, Alien Covenant Prologue, Last Supper. It was used to set the stage for the movie, establish the crew dynamics.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So that shows a commitment not just to the feature film, but to the whole world-building ecosystem of the franchise. It's a sign of respect for the material, Hashtag take 3.3 voice acting and commercial work.
His versatility just keeps going, into voice acting too, which shows his ability to appeal to literally every demographic, doesn't it? From animated family movies to R-rated adult comedy, even video games.
Oh yeah, he has an extensive roster of animated roles.
Yeah.
He was Fred McDade in Despicable Me back in 2010. He voiced Bomb, the explosion-prone bird in the Angry Birds movie in 2016 and its 2019 sequel.
Right, Bomb.
Hilariously named Honey Mustard in the R-rated Sausage Party in 2016, and Wolf Boss in Kung Fu Panda 2 in 2011.
That's a huge span. His voice work really demonstrates an ability to convey that same intense, slightly manic energy just through vocal performance, but it also shows great range. His most recent, maybe most acclaimed animated role was Rick Mitchell in that highly lauded 2021 film, The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Yeah, that role as Rick Mitchell is sort of well-meaning but technically completely inept dad. That was a departure from his usual intensity.
Yeah.
He played a character who was trying really hard, but mostly failing, grounding him in this vulnerability. And that performance earned him multiple voice acting nominations in 2022 from groups like the Austin Film Critics Association.
So the industry recognizes him not just for loudness, but for nuanced vocal characterization too.
Seems so. And of course, his voice crosses into the digital world. He voiced Dwayne Earl, the talk radio host of Beyond Insemination, in that massively popular video game Grand Theft Auto V back in 2013.
Oh, yeah, that character.
And finally, his commercial work shows the monetization, really, of his specific persona. Back in 2010, he had an endorsement deal with K-Swiss shoes. Remember those?
Vaguely.
More recently, since 2018, he's been working as Sports Rodstein, who's described as the world's biggest sports fan, although not the savviest, in UK television commercials for the bookmaker Coral.
Sports Rodstein. Okay, that's basically just a diluted, commercial-friendly version of the Kenny Powers template, isn't it?
Pretty much.
A delusional fan, supreme confidence, zero knowledge. It proves his comedic brand is so recognizable and marketable that he can deploy it effectively in these short commercial bursts, even overseas. Hashtag 3.4, the elaborate hoax anecdote.
Speaking of marketing, we absolutely have to dedicate some time to the 2018 Crocodile Dundee sequel campaign. This wasn't just a commercial. It was one of the most brilliant and elaborate pieces of marketing misdirection of the last decade.
Yeah.
And McBride was right at the center of it.
Oh man, I remember this. This is basically performance art disguised as a sequel announcement. These highly polished trailers were released worldwide for a supposed new film called Dundee. The Son of a Legend returns home, starring McBride as Brian Dundee, the son.
Right.
It looked and felt like a legitimate major studio sequel. People were completely fooled. I was fooled for a bit.
Yeah, lots of people were. And what made it so convincing was the sheer star power involved. The campaign featured cameos by this galaxy of top Australian stars. Yeah. Chris Hemsworth, Hugh Jackman, Russell Crowe, Margot Robbie, Ruby Rose.
All of them.
The sheer volume of genuine Australian talent made the concept seem just too big, too real to be fake.
It was a risky bet, though. I remember the discussion at the time, was this elaborate hoax really worth the cost? Given the global buzz it generated, it must have had a massive budget just to secure all that A-list talent and produce those cinema-quality trailers.
Well, the budget was clearly justifiable for the client in the end, because it was eventually revealed that this entire months-long campaign was actually a massive Super Bowl commercial for Tourism Australia.
Right. Tourism Australia? Brilliant.
They successfully leveraged the global hunger for IP sequels and McBride's specific brand recognition to generate extraordinary international press for the country, not just some product.
It really demonstrated that McBride, in collaboration with these high-level producers, can execute this multi-platform performance, an entire fake movie persona that captivates and totally tricks the global audience. It's a testament to his collaborative muscle and his ability to project a character convincingly, even when the whole goal is pure misdirection.
Which brings us, really, to the final stage of his evolution, the transition from actor who writes his own parts to a major writer and executive producer across some of the most respected film and television genres, including nonfiction now. This is where that UNCSA group truly becomes like a corporate force.
Okay, the fact that Danny McBride is a pivotal creative force behind one of the most financially successful and critically respected horror trilogies in modern history, that's got to be one of the biggest aha moments of this deep dive for many people.
Absolutely. He served as a writer and executive producer for the Halloween sequel trilogy, Halloween in 2018, Halloween Kills in 2021, and Halloween Ends in 2022. This isn't just a guy who suddenly decided to dip his toe in the genre.
Yo.
He fundamentally reshaped a sacred horror property.
And this connects right back to those crucial early collaborators, doesn't it? This trilogy was directed and co-written by David Gordon Green, produced by Jason Blum of Blumhouse. It's the original UNCSA crew McBride and Green stepping into the high-stakes Blumhouse horror world and completely reinventing Michael Myers.
And their key technical decision, the thing that really justified the critical acclaim and the huge commercial success, was structural.
Mm-hmm.
They ignored every single sequel made after the 1978 original.
Bold move.
Very. They treated their 2018 film as a direct continuation, just eliminating decades of complicated, often pretty silly lore. And this focus allowed them to concentrate on themes that McBride and Green actually excel at, even in their comedies.
Mm-hmm.
Things like inherited trauma, moral decay, the long-term psychic damage caused by violence.
Which are surprisingly close to the themes of the Righteous Gemstones when you think about it.
Exactly. That's a huge analytical connection. The narcissistic chaos that drives a Kenny Powers or the bitter resentment of a Neil Gamby is maybe just 1 degree removed from the kind of moral emptiness that creates pure evil like Michael Myers. The genre changes, but that focus on broken characters remains totally consistent. And this commitment wasn't just a one-off. The critical reception for his writing was strong. He earned a Fright Meter Award nomination for Best Screenplay for the 2018 Halloween, and he continued that serious horror work, co-writing the story for the supernatural horror film The Exorcist, Believer in 2023. This is his idea, getting the green light for another massive franchise.
So he's now recognized as a serious creative mind, capable of handling intellectual property that is totally genre-defining, not just comedy, but major horror. That versatility in writing is extremely rare in Hollywood. Hashtag, tag, tag, 4.2 executive producer and nonfiction work.
And if pivoting to blockbuster horror wasn't enough to cement his status as a serious producer, his next major move was into the documentary sphere. We definitely need to highlight his role as an executive producer for the HBO true crime documentary series Telemarketers, which premiered just last year, 2023.
Yeah, this is a major departure. Why is a company known for stylized dark comedy, roughhouse pictures, suddenly tackling true crime and corporate corruption?
Well, because they trusted the subject matter, and they trusted their production company's ability to handle it. This shift into nonfiction is critical because it earned him significant top-tier recognition completely outside of comedy or horror.
Yeah.
We're talking a highly sought-after Primetime Emmy Award nomination for Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Series.
Wow, an Emmy nom for that.
Yeah, plus a Gotham Award nomination and an International Documentary Association nomination.
Okay, when you start collecting nominations across comedy, like the Satellite Awards, horror with the Fright Meter Award, and serious nonfiction with an Emmy nod, you haven't just achieved flexibility. You've built an actual organizational machine capable of producing quality content regardless of the genre constraints.
And that machine is Roughhouse Pictures. We noted the Righteous Gemstones was ordered by HBO from his Roughhouse Pictures label.
Yeah.
This indicates that Roughhouse is now the fully realized corporate version of the Three Flavas from back in the day.
Right.
It's a major production entity, capable of supporting high-level drama, comedy, horror, nonfiction, giving his long-term collaborators this protected home base to pursue their unique vision. And we see other producing credits too, confirming the company's output, like the action film Fat Man in 2020 and earlier indie films like The D Train and Donald Cried.
So the core function of Roughhouse seems simple, really. Protect the integrity of the original creative group. It ensures that the people who launched him in the low-budget world of the Foot Fist way are the same people running the show for HBO and Blumhouse today. That feels like the genius of the McBride model.
I think you nailed it. Hashtag 4.3 personal life and timeline summary. Okay, before we move to the final synthesis, just a quick personal check-in. The sources confirm he married art director Gia Ruiz back in 2010. They have 2 children, a son and a daughter, and they reside in South Carolina, which, interestingly enough, is where The Righteous Gemstones is filmed. Keeps him rooted near the very environment he often satirizes.
Huh, interesting. And a quick timeline recap them. Active since 2003, his consistent output across all platforms. From starring in and directing his own HBO series to EP credits on indie films and major horror franchises, it just shows this relentless creative drive. He has built this collaborative fortress that allows him to pursue basically any creative whim, doesn't matter how disparate the genre or how big the required budget. Hashtag outro. So what's the ultimate portrait of Danny McBride that emerges from this deep dive then? The sources really paint a picture of an artist defined by, I think, 3 undeniable pillars that go way beyond just his acting talents.
Yeah, the first pillar has to be his consistent foundational collaborations. especially with David Gordon Green and Jody Hill, realized today through their production fortress Roughhouse Pictures. That ecosystem guarantees creative control and integrity.
Okay, pillar one, collaboration. Pillar two is surely his unique creation of that flawed yet somehow magnetic anti-hero. That character template, running all the way from Fred Simmons to Kenny Powers, Neil Gamby, and now Jesse Gemstone. It explores the deep, often really tragic comedy that exists between a person's delusion and their reality.
Exactly. And the final pillar, the one that confirms his longevity and skill, is that successful, high-profile transition into serious genre writing and producing. Whether it's strategically reviving the Michael Myers mythology for Blumhouse or earning an Emmy nomination for a deeply serious true crime doc like Telemarketers.
Right.
He's not just an actor. He's genuinely an empire builder, capable of succeeding across Hollywood's most protected and profitable genres.
It's a remarkable career trajectory, really, backed up by the sheer volume and quality of the projects, securing recognition across the board, those primetime Emmy and Satellite nominations, plus earlier kudos like the Austin Film Critics Breakthrough Artist Award way back in 2008 for his body of work just at that time.
And if we connect this all back to the bigger picture, the implication really is that McBride and his collaborators, they've managed to build this powerful machine that can operate successfully in the high-budget, high-pressure world of HBO and Blumhouse,
Yeah.
while still somehow retaining the specific kind of anarchic, character-driven energy of their low-budget roots. They never lost that original flavor that defined their work way back when. And this raises, I think, a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider. Given his early life was so intimately immersed in organized religion and performance, specifically his mother's performance of sermons using puppets.
The puppets again.
Right.
Right.
How much does the deeply satirical yet often strangely empathetic portrayal of televangelists and their families in the Righteous Gemstones truly stem from that personal, foundational childhood experience
Yeah.
versus just simple outside observation? It feels like this full circle moment where childhood influence becomes potent career material, and the scale of the satires may be only matched by the depth of that personal connection. That feels like the kind of creative investment that guarantees enduring, unforgettable characters.